We have no.
Welcome to Dog Central on Wednesday night. I'm Graham Coffey. That is John Tweet Sports. That is Josh Hancher at dog_stats. And that is Mr. Craig Lawson. You can follow him on Twitter at Craig_Lawson. Please.
And multiple burners
already. Yes, and multiple burners. Guys, we are coming off Mississippi State win, getting ready for Kentucky. Got new college football playoff rankings to argue about that Josh is really angry over on Twitter. And, lots of other fun stuff happening. How are we doing?
Currently not angry.
I don't believe you.
Well, you need a foil, Graham. You need a foil. So many you have 14,000 acolytes, and I just want to just be the one that just be the little black bird on your shoulder, just kind of like pushing back just a little bit.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get into CFP rings and all that stuff, any first impressions from Mississippi State win, or I guess second impressions because today's Wednesday?
Yeah, it was an ugly, big time win. It was a choppy, just a lot of stuff wasn't working, but it just didn't seem to matter. Turnovers, giving up special team touchdowns, and it didn't matter. I mean, I feel like that's overall a good thing, but you always worry.
Yeah. Well, so you get into November and you've got an SEC game on the road and kickoff, it's 40 degrees and falling or whatever it was, and to score 45 points in a game like that where you turn the ball over multiple times, it should have turned it over more. It's a real testament, I think, to not only the type of team that Kirby Smart has built, but Todd Monken, like Graham had a really great write-up in his 12 takeaways this week about just, Todd Monken and just the way that Georgia found a way to not only win this game, but score a lot of points. And the defensive game plan was real simple. I mean, Georgia was trying to get pressure with 4 and play man, and a few times they had 2 deep safeties, and that was it. Like there was a few plays where they ran some exotic, blitzes or pressures, but other than that, it was real simple. It was lining it up. We're going to get pressure with 4. We're going to let you do your air raid and try to get your 4 to 5 yards at a time, and that's going to be it. And to be able to win a game like that on the road by 26 points when you're doing that is it's where you want to be in November, especially where you want to be as the number 1 team in the college football playoff rankings, trying to get healthy, stay healthy, and finish out this.
Hey, you know what? Getting all the calls from the referees apparently doesn't suck.
Yeah, having Mike Leach pissed over referees at halftime was a highlight of this week for me.
What about the roughing the punter call though? Shouldn't that have been running into the kicker and 5 yards and repunt because it was like 4th and 15 or something like that?
Yeah, I mean it seemed like a little makeup call, but I think by the letter of it, it's like you got to give him your planting, whatever the landing foot or whatever. You can't even touch that leg or something. So I think by the letter,
but he didn't touch that leg.
If I
saw the replay correctly.
Yeah, but as soon it's who was it? I can't remember.
It was Jackson
Meeks,
yeah. Right? And as soon as he ran through there, he put his hands on his helmet, which was like, "Come on, dude, don't do
that." Sold it.
Yeah.
No, I thought he did that because he was close to blocking the punt. Like, You watch a lot. You see that a lot where a guy like almost blocks a kick, and they're like,
Yeah. That's your 13th takeaway. So if you're watching, you got the 13th takeaway.
The bonus.
Or was that in the 12 takeaways?
I don't think
the analysis of Jackson Meeks putting his hands on the helmet was in the 12 takeaways.
That's called a surrender cobra, guys, for the lexicon.
Okay, great. Cool.
No, I mean, like Graham talked about it a bunch. The offensive line, it still feels like they're tinkering with it. If I'm understanding your analysis right, Graham.
Yeah.
You talked about it. I talked about it in the blog. It's like, take away the wide receiver run, end around run, or whatever that jet sweep thing is, and take away the late garbage time Milton touchdown. They were really, really bad running the ball. But that said, like John said, we scored 40 plus points. We passed the ball to a bunch of wide receivers and tight ends. We were able to move the ball and score a bunch of points. And it's like, and what Craig says, like, we didn't look great, but we destroyed. I mean, that's where Georgia is right now. It's like we can play a crummy game on the road and come away covering, winning, and never really in doubt.
And that's not a bad team either.
No. Yeah, no, it's not. Offensively, it's not great right now, but defensively, they've been solid all year. And they didn't have answers for whatever Monken needed to do. He called plays and got it done.
Well, I think the offensive line, I think it's a concern, but I honestly think there's a pretty, consistent pattern now, 10 games into the season, where if it's a big game, they play really well, and if it's like a not big game, they look kind of disinterested and they don't play that well. It's been really clear to me going back to Missouri that they're much better running gap scheme in the run game than zone scheme. And going back to 2020 and Monken's first year, Georgia's been 50-50 zone scheme to gap scheme pretty much, all the time. On Saturday night, they were 4-1 zone to gap. So that was a big break of pattern. And I don't know if that was based on the 3-3-5 that Mississippi State plays and something they saw pregame there, because that is a little bit of an unorthodox defense. But I mean, Mississippi State's defensive line was really determined to shoot gaps all game, and they did a good job of it. And that started early and often. And I think if there was one critique in the game plan or, in the adjustments for me, it was that they didn't take advantage of that by running more gap scheme as that game wore on, because I think if they had, similar to what you saw against Missouri in the second half, they may have opened up some bigger runs more quickly. I also thought that I don't know. There was almost like a stubbornness to it to me that was a little bit frustrating or bothersome, because every other thing that you normally would pull out of the playbook if a team is shooting gaps on you, like tunnel screens and the end around play to McConkey and the quarterback draw from Stetson, all of that made sense. They just never ever really changed what they were doing in the run game.
Right.
Can I jump in real quick on zone scheme versus gap scheme for the pleats here, like myself? So I read your write-ups, and correct me if I'm wrong about this. I'm just going to go full-breasted here. If we're looking at zone scheme, as I understand it, and feel free to dunk on me if I'm wrong, is you're basically zone blocking kind of the man in front of you, and gap scheme is more pulling guards, pulling tackles. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. So even idiots if you're an idiot like me, it's pretty easy to see on film. If you're blocking
if you're an idiot like me, it's pretty easy to see on film.
Fair.
Yeah. No, I mean, we had George Foster on after the Missouri game and had a good conversation with him about it. I mean, sometimes you have the stretch zone plays, which Missouri did to Georgia a lot, where all of the offensive line is moving in one direction. But, I mean, I think, for Georgia, it does, logically speaking, they should be a good zone scheme team, because, they got a bunch of former 5-stars on the offensive line, and against a team like Mississippi State or pretty much anyone else they play, they should be able to go, man up, basically, and just block the space in front of them. But I don't know, going back to last year, even with Erickson and Justin Schaefer, the guard position on Georgia's offensive line, when they run zone scheme stuff, tends to screw assignment with a little bit of an appalling regularity. So I don't know. Josh just alerted me that we have some game tape to roll. So,
Yeah.
All
go
right.
ahead. What up, Josh? Oh, don't make me the big guy. There you go.
There we go.
No one wants to look at
Yeah,
that.
Yeah, it was interesting that he took the kick, right? He won the toss and decided to take the kick and went 3 and out or maybe 4 and out or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is probably out of order because the clips numbers are scrambled, but hang on, stay with me.
Yeah. Yeah, the first drive for Mississippi State was definitely that's what I was talking about earlier. Like Georgia just lined up. They had, four guys. They ran that mint front, basically with 4 down and the 4-2-5 and just try to keep everything in front of them.
Yeah. 3 and out here. And I mean, just like Georgia's defense played really well. I don't think we can, everyone's talking a little bit about the offense and stuff, but they played really great. I mean, there was definitely some penalties and some things that didn't go their way, but it was pretty awesome to see those guys play tough on the road. They had a false start from the first. Here's that play before here, and this is where Carter's spying, right?
Yep, it's a delayed blitz, so he's gonna, essentially he simulates the spy, and then
he is a spy, but in Georgia's scheme, if he sees a spot where he thinks he can get to the quarterback, he basically has like free reign to take off.
Correct. As soon as Rodgers moves off of that spot, he's coming.
All right, yeah. Here's our 1st and 15 after the false start on that drive.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how Stetson kind of like I don't know started off with a lot of throws to Roseby early in this game, which worked well, but then we didn't see him again really after the first drive.
Yeah, he had 3 catches on 4 targets like early in the game, and then just kind of disappeared. Some of these run plays too, Josh. Like it was interesting seeing. Oh, that's Bowers. It was interesting seeing Devin Willock in there. He didn't play that many snaps, but I think he played 10 snaps, but and didn't play very well. But that's what we were talking about earlier, where it definitely feels like Georgia's still tinkering with that offensive line, rotating guys in. And
Parker Stats Award, the TCU guy, who maybe if things go to plan, maybe we can get him to join us because he does some good work and lots of stats and stuff. But he just had this great tweet a couple of weeks ago that just said it's just unfair to have, whenever you want 7 yards out of Brock Bowers. But here he's lined up 2nd and 7 after a kind of a clunky run, and just like you can't, he's indefensible when they find him and stuff. So it's just like he was there. I mean, he didn't have he was just always there for us. I mean, how do you?
Yeah, it seems like they've used him a lot lately, like to kind of like set up the game script, or like like mocking. Like normally the first 15 plays in a game are going to be scripted before the game, and like those script heavy plays all seem to have a lot of Bowers the last few weeks, and then he kind of disappears. I don't know if that's defense adjusting or changing game plan or what, but I don't know. I'm of the opinion, like, especially if you're a team like Georgia that has a defense like they do, that first quarter is kind of the most important thing if it goes well, because like if you get up, it just throws off everything that the opponent wants to do. And they've done a good job of using Bowers and Washington for that matter to like get leads in games.
Yeah. Speaking of Bowers and Washington, here he is, Bowers is, at Washington, it looks like he's an H-back there, Graham, and then so they're keying on him, and look, there goes Washington
right down the seam. Yeah, this is Mississippi State playing that trying that 3-3-5, and they play zone on that back end, and those kind of throws were open a lot because of
so like this is a pretty good job on run blocking on this play. Like this was, I think, one of their best runs of the night.
They only had
it was off tempo too, which was kind of like Georgia's done a lot of tempo early drives since the Florida game. And I think that does help the offensive line quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was their.
Yeah, and then they fumbled a snap.
I forgot about that. That's to
really
go with
exciting.
the 2 interceptions.
Not only did they fumbled the snap.
How many of those interceptions are we putting on Stetson though?
Yeah.
He got as many as he should.
1, right?
1.
I would. Yeah, I don't think it really goes on him.
No, he got hit. Yeah, I'm not putting it on him. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, I'm
talking about
not.
the sloppiness of the game.
Like I'm creating conversation.
All right.
Yeah.
So here, let me start.
I thought I was getting accused. Felt attacked.
No, I'm just asking.
Here's Carter.
I hate this play right here.
Yeah. Okay. So here's Carter. Like, tell me the breakdown here. So,
Xavier Truss 73 is supposed to kick that guy out, and he ends up on his knees, and so Jalen doesn't have.
All right, let me pull up 15. That's the next clip here.
In fairness, there have been times in his career that Jalen has blown up all 3 of those guys.
Right, but watch Xavier Truss. 73 right here is supposed to kick out this guy on the end. He gets stonewalled, ends up on his knees, and Jalen has the cut inside.
He kind of tripped.
Yeah, he kind of trips. Yeah, so that's what blew it up. Is
can he not normally go to Carter's right and then squeeze in there?
No.
I mean,
all right.
That's not how the play should go.
Yeah, it's supposed to be wider. So if Truss gets this guy kicked out, then Jalen's lane is a little bit wider right there, and so it just got all squeezed in.
If it was me, I'd have cut outside and scored, but
I did. I really thought the goal line play calling in this game was really frustrating. I thought it didn't end up costing them because they had the roughing the kicker penalty, and then that play action call was fine, but everyone knows what you're doing when you bring Jalen Carter in, and we have not seen any variation on that since 2020 when we saw the touchdown pass to him against Tennessee. So if your offensive line couldn't block, really, they couldn't get push off the line of scrimmage in any other situation in the game. Why do we think on the goal line when everyone knows what's coming that they're suddenly going to?
Is this on Bill? Is this play on Bill here? Not keeping contained.
I didn't see it. Oh, we're going to see it right here.
He looks like he's about to drop back in pass coverage, and then he engages.
Yeah, that was
the
interesting.
Tackle.
All right, well, if I can jump in because I don't think I actually put this out on Twitter or anywhere, but between the 20s, they're an 80% throwing the ball team, and so that first and 10 or whatever, he was definitely thinking pass as you would 4 out of 5 times, and I think that's a play that if they're going to run it and they're going to do it, that's fine. You honestly just take it because you've got to defend the other stuff too. So I just feel if they're going to run it first and they get a play, that's great. You got a first down, no big deal. You live to fight another day because that is against type or whatever. But they did not do that enough on us, and they know they couldn't commit to it. So it didn't bother me that that Beal dropped back there and didn't make the play because they're not going to do that to you all night. Whereas if he bites on the run, that maybe that opens up some things on their offense that would be worse for Georgia. So I definitely the Georgia defense dictated what or controlled, or at least I feel like they dictated what they were going to do on offensively.
I feel like we're seeing over the last especially now with this current defense, you see guys like Smile Mondon and Malachi Starks. And my question for the first few years of Kirby's tenure is when are these 5 stars going to come in and get churned out, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and become those first-round draft picks? And I think we obviously saw it with this past draft. And it's nice to just see a guy like Smile Mondon. I mean, he's a second-year guy. Didn't play a lot last year, obviously, because we had so much depth at inside linebacker, but that guy is a dude. And Malachi Starks, I mean, I think they probably, I know the Illinois got the safety, but Malachi Starks is one of the best safeties in the country as a true freshman. This kid was in high school last year. And then obviously you have Jalen Carter, who's, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if he was the number 1 pick, but it will definitely be a top 5 guy.
Yeah.
This play right here from him is crazy too, man.
Yeah, I mean, you got a guy that was saying like, oh, he's going to sit out the rest of the year, and now he's playing on the road in Mississippi State, making tackles like that.
Yeah,
that guy.
Rosenhaus didn't get his way on that one.
to
your point,
agent?
though, To your point, though, Craig. I mean, I think Georgia has a lot of folks on this roster. Like Dalen Everett is a guy like that for me. That is going to be. I think next year,
Walker
Dalen Everett is
there, number 11, Jalon Walker.
Yeah, Jalon Walker, Dalen Everett, Jalon Walker. They're going to feel what you're feeling with Smile Munden this year. You're going to feel that with those guys next year. I think.
Hold on,
Georgia's evaluations have been really good on these guys.
Can we talk about how sweet this formation is? You got Bowers and Washington in a stack to the top of the field. Like they don't do anything
Tennessee
with
a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I wonder if they like ran it in practice and they were like, "Hey, we're pretty good at this too."
Some Heupel stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's a run play.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think Xavier Truss I don't know if that's Truss or Willick just whiffs, but
it's probably Truss on a run play.
Yeah,
for being honest.
Yeah, Truss has been
just guessing.
Yeah, that's the problem with Truss is like he's so good pass blocking lately that.
Hear me out, guys.
Taking him out.
On run plays, play Willick. On the pass plays,
I think
just bring Truss in.
I'll tell you, I think they may have tried that some this game because Willick played 10 snaps, and I think the majority of those were run snaps, and
only 2 of them were pass.
It didn't
like,
go.
Can you stop it?
Yeah, it actually didn't go as well as we had hoped it would.
No,
unfortunately.
I think Devin didn't play his best game this week. So
I was kidding. Whoever's watching this, I already said I was an idiot earlier. I don't want to confirm it too much.
So, I think one thing that's interesting with this defense, like they gave up the one big play before half, but, I'm ready to say at this point that this secondary is better than last year's secondary.
I agree with that.
I think they guard better, like 1 through 5 in the secondary.
Is Malachi better in coverage year 1 than Scene was in year 3?
Yes.
And that's wild because that's a first-round draft pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. He's not seen in run defense.
No. But he ain't bad.
No, he's not bad. He's definitely a sure tackler, but he can get he can have that safety, kind of miss tackle flu sometimes.
He doesn't crush bones quite like Lewis did at this point.
Yeah. But he's got 2 more years in the school of Scott Fountain strength and conditioning. So
Bone crushing academy.
Shit, excuse my language. But there's Willick right there on a run play. Like,
yeah, that was the
whiff. That left guard.
Didn't 2 guys just? I think Bowers could have picked him
up
at
right guard.
They were both just
he's gonna pull across. So this is gap.
Bowers is supposed to pick up the outside guy.
Yeah, but they both whiff.
And Willick's supposed to turn up field and hit the guy. That
you could see him kind of put his arm out like. Oh.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Yeah, like Bowers honestly has struggled a little bit with some of his run blocking.
Yeah,
over the last month or two.
So here's the first pick. Definitely not on Stetson.
No,
this is McClendon and Willick on that right side again. And
I mean, all right. So here's what I saw. Like on this play, where's this? I guess they're breaking on it. But it felt like it was open too, right?
Well, it looks like it. If
he doesn't get hit, I mean, it's just he gets hit, and it just becomes a.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was just that was a play that you love to see as Mississippi State. But they still didn't do enough with it.
McConkey could have had even more yards. It looks like.
Yeah, and Christopher missed a pick there.
Here's another.
Yeah, and then I think Dumas Johnson drops one on the very next play.
Right here, threw it right to him.
Were y'all surprised to see Chris Smith on the Nagurski finalist list at all?
What's the Nagurski for?
No, the
Sorry, I honestly don't know.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
the
best-
secondary.
It's like
Secondary.
the best. No, it's like best defensive player, right?
defensive player. Period. Yeah.
No,
Will
I think he's
Yeah.
played. I think he's having
Yeah.
like an All-American season.
Yeah, Will Anderson is on that list.
Is Jalen
I know.
Carter on the
I know
list?
that he hasn't played. He's missed a lot of games, but I guess my first thought would have been if we're going to have somebody, probably Jalen Carter, but maybe he hasn't met the quota. But I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but I was just like, I didn't realize he was having that kind of year.
Yeah.
So that's
I mean,
pretty
it's
nuts.
what's
There's
the
4 finalists.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of the old adage about like a secondary player, specifically corners, is like, if they're doing their job, then you don't hear their name called during the game, right?
Yeah.
And like, I do think, I mean, going back, like that's why. I mean, that's kind of why I have the opinion on the secondary versus last year. Like, he's really, really, really good in man coverage, and now you have Starks, who's I think almost as good as he is, and then like Bullard is a many levels step up from what Brinney was last year. But yeah, man, I mean, like I think with Smith, tends to feel like if anyone on the team gets an interception, it's him more often than not. And then,
I want to clarify real quick. You said that Bullard was a many level step up from Brinney. You're saying many MANY as opposed to MINI?
Yes.
Like several
yes.
levels. Okay.
Several levels.
I thought that's what
Several
you meant.
levels.
Just want to be
Sorry.
clear. Yeah.
No, you're good. I've got COVID brain. No, yeah. I mean, like, I just think he's a much better player. And
yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
Brinney was fine for Georgia until you played like Tennessee last year.
Until he matched up with Velus Jones in the slot.
Right. Two drives into the game, it's like, oh, we got to fix that matchup.
All right. I don't think as a Georgia fan in short yard situations, you can not appreciate a properly executed quarterback sneak.
Georgia's done this a couple. Georgia's done this a couple of times this year where they fake. So this is what every team does when they're going to do the hard count, right? You send the guy in motion, you do the leg kick, you send the other guy in motion, and then you do your hard count. Georgia's done that twice this year where they actually then ended up running the sneak. So that
they need to do the opposite of it now before.
Yeah, exactly. Agree.
They need to break the tendency.
Yeah.
Because I think they're going to pick up on it.
Yeah, they need to actually do the hard count.
That was a near fumble right there. We got lucky that they blew that one dead, and I'm sure all the Mississippi State fans were pissed off about that.
Mississippi State got lucky right there.
Oh, God, that play was really frustrating. The missed throw to Darnell, because I mean, I know Stetson's trying to throw the ball to a place where he's not going to have contact, but he's 6'7.5", 280 pounds. Yeah,
he ain't changing
Darnell, all of Georgia's wide receivers except for Darnell subscribe to option route football, but Darnell's he's just gonna run what call is, and you just gotta throw it to that spot. Big boy's not sitting down.
He ain't changing direction quickly in midair.
So this play is on Christopher's highlight reel if he's up for this award, because
phenomenal play.
Yeah, it's so good.
He's 12 yards deep at the snap.
Guys, that's terrifying. Can I just a quick anecdote? I remember I was playing linebacker in the 9th grade, and I was too small, so I begged him to move me to safety. And running from 20, not 20, but 10, 12 yards out, full speed at a running back like that, you got to be a little bit crazy, or maybe a lot of bit crazy. Because I feel like I can be crazy, but I was like, I was making business decisions, man. I'm diving at knees and ankles, and that's a SEC. And Chris Smith's probably smaller than me right now. I mean, I'm more fat, but I mean, that takes a lot of guts to go in there and to get up. I mean, you saw what happened to Javon Bullard. I mean, he took a big shot and had to go out of the game. That is impressive to me. I know that all college safeties have that ability, but a lot of guys turn it down as
This drive kind of sucked for a guy that was had predicted a shutout.
Well, I hated this one because Jalen Carter, I mean, half a second he was there. It's just a good play by Rodgers. But
yeah, these drives right here are peak Mississippi State. Just tempo, getting guys open. They were dictating for what they wanted to do on offense, and they just getting the ball out quickly, getting it to those guys. These are those are passing plays, but they're all
4.5 yards a clip.
Yeah, exactly. We see that a lot. Some of this in Georgia's offense, we see it all over college football. These short passing plays that almost are like runs.
Yeah,
and
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we kept making plays, but it just never. It just 3 and 4 or 5 yards. It just they get down there and then they. Why is that? Wait, sorry.
There you go.
There you
go. Yeah, I mean, I thought I don't know. I mean, my thought on this Georgia defense, especially after the last 2 weeks, is just like if you're not basically perfect on every down, you're in trouble because once they get you behind the sticks and Jalen Carter, I don't think a lot of people realize probably 85% of the time, maybe 80, he's playing 2 gap where he's he's right there in the middle and he's responsible for the A gap and the B gap, but on these 3rd and long plays or these obvious passing plays, he gets to just pin his ears back and go upfield, and when that happens, he gets upfield very quickly. So I feel like with him back in the lineup now, and as well as the secondary's tackling and the linebackers are tackling, if you have an incomplete pass or you have a run play that gets stuck for, a yard or 2 yards, all of a sudden, you're in a spot where it's going to be really hard to stay on the field. And if you have to pull that off more than once a drive, chances are you're not scoring, or you're not scoring a touchdown at least.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, Mississippi State, so you take away that special teams
ball, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, because did he turn him though?
I mean, I thought that was just a normal football play.
Yeah, this is not.
I think you could call PI on nearly every play if you wanted to. But
I mean, the only thing is he doesn't even look at the pocket. He's just going right at him. I mean, throws his hands all over.
Well, the biggest problem is he had his left hand on the front side of his shoulder pads. It's
whether he turned him or not, I guess it looked like he did. The receiver might have naturally been turning, but I complain about officiating a lot, so well, I try to be as objective as I can.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's fair.
But to your point, Graham, if you're not perfect, you got to depend on those types of situations. Even with those types of calls, Mississippi State scored 2 field goals and a late touchdown outside of that special teams punt return.
Right.
And so, I mean, it's hard to score on this team.
Yeah.
And even Leach recognized it because he's the king of going for 4th down.
Yeah.
And in this game, he kicked 2 field goals.
Yeah.
Begrudgingly, but he did it. This was a good run from Kenny.
I kind of highlighted a little bit of those 2 red zone offenses versus the red zone defense for Georgia, where it's some of the best in the country at both. And Georgia won that battle. You know what I mean? All night long. It was not even close to anything like a bend don't break, but they manned up. They had penalties in there and they still didn't let them score. And to your point, Graham, it's he kicked field goals there. I mean, that's probably as much of a compliment to Georgia as what they can do to you down there as anything.
Yeah. I was excited to see Stetson. He did it a couple times. He does it on that touchdown run where he shakes the guy out of his shoes, but a couple times he actually kept the ball on some of his RPOs, which I've been waiting on for a few weeks now. It's felt like that's been open for a lot. And
curious.
Yeah. What a catch, man.
All right, I got a fun trivia fact for you guys. You guys might already know this, but how many snaps did Kyrus Jackson play on Saturday night?
John, you're the snaps guy. I'll go to you for all my snaps info on Dog Central.
Yeah, I already know the answer. Do y'all want to guess?
I really have no idea. I'm guessing it's not.
I'm going to say 13.
Okay.
I was gonna just say 6. I'm just gonna go really low and ruin it.
All right. Well,
No.
I hate you, but it was 7. The answer is 7.
7.
7
Price is Right
snaps.
rules.
So 7 snaps, 5 targets, 4 catches. Like, I just think, I don't know. I'm curious. Like, is Georgia's best lineup? Just let Ladd play Z, which he's been doing about 70% of the time this year, and be an outside receiver, and then play Kyrus in the slot. And
Kyrus gets forgotten a lot, and he hasn't.
Yeah,
he doesn't get a lot of usage, but he's led the team in receiving. And I was kind of surprised with AD Mitchell going out that he hasn't been used more.
Yeah,
it's not a criticism because go ahead.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I mean, it's Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint's blocking. Like he's a really, really good physical blocker, and so he gets those reps over Kyrus. But I still think Kyrus. I would love to see Kyrus used more, not just because he's productive, but he can do things like make that catch that we saw. I mean, he ran.
He's dynamic.
The routes he was running this game were, I mean, some of the best routes Georgia's wide receivers have run all year. Like he was really doing a really nice job.
Do we want to take a second and talk about this end of the half here? Drive.
Oh, please.
Rest in peace to Kirby ever trying to score before halftime ever again. I hope I'm wrong about that.
No, that's not. See, that's what frustrates me because my theory on this.
I pissed Sam off.
No, it's because they weren't trying to score before halftime.
Right.
This is what happens when you try to look aggressive. They were like, this is like trying to look aggressive enough so some asshole like me on Twitter doesn't say that you weren't, but not actually being aggressive enough to throw a ball, past the sticks. I mean, this is some weird deal with Kenny, but I don't know. That whole play was busted, but either run the clock out or don't. But you are Todd Monken. You have a lot of tricks up your sleeve. If you want to go run a 1-minute drill, I've seen you do it, and you know how to do it. And this was not that. This is like a bunch of dump off.
Well,
just kind of crap.
And in the post, I think it was a post game that Kirby talked about that third down play where that's actually a called quarterback draw with an option at the line for him to call a pass play, which he did. So, Kirby talked about it. It failed and they had to punt. And then when Ringo misses that tackle, that's perfect storm of
look. Well, he explained it that the way that they were in protect, they ended up in a situation where they only had one gunner, and so once that guy got to the edge, they didn't have speed on the field because they were protecting. Yeah, they were protecting. They were protecting against the punt block, and so they didn't have
out of bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the other side of that too. Is your punter. I think he'd punted twice already in the first half, and it did not look like it was his night. He was not hitting 75-yarders to the corner like he had been.
He's probably not used to. He's probably not
cold
used
weather.
to being cold. He's from Australia.
I thought the same thing.
And I wonder if it was like kicking a cinder block.
It was really cold.
Yeah. I mean, I thought all SEC games on Saturday, you could notice punting was considerably worse.
All right, but I'm gonna put the second half back up here because I think this is a team that I have not seen in my years as a fan.
Whoa!
But that
extrapolate
you give up, you screw up the end of the first half. You're on the road. Things are loud. It's a 1-score game, and this play happens. I mean,
you're totally
they're playing.
And yeah, exactly. And this just we've never had this element, it's just a simple play. It's nothing.
Darnell, man.
And you've got the guys that can make it happen. And and
dude, what a boss.
Darnell. Well, Ladd hit 21.4 on the GPS. I saw on this play, which was the
21.
21.4, which was the
second
fastest.
Fast way, boy.
It was the second fastest run play from scrimmage per I'll have to find the. I apologize to the folks.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Since a point guard at Duke. Sorry.
Is that a Greg Paulus reference?
Yeah. It's a big Trajan Langdon vibes right there from Led.
I mean, I don't say the game was over at that point, but that's
over.
That's just that.
Not for me, baby. I had them at 16.5, and we were at 12.
I did too.
And I had a Hail Mary parlay going, and the dogs were the last part of the third leg, so I was not calm.
I loved how aggressive the secondary was being in this first drive of the second half for Mississippi State too.
Yeah, and I mean, one other thing that I'll give credit to Monken for is like 2 years ago in this game, Georgia couldn't run the ball. You know, they had 8 rushing yards in that game in 2020, and Georgia continued to run the ball on first and second down all night. And JT Daniels was having to make hero throws on 3rd and 12. And I thought Monken did do a pretty good job, especially in this third quarter, just being like, yeah, we're gonna throw. Like we're gonna throw on second down. We're gonna throw on first down. And we're gonna I know that there's controversy and lots of different feelings. Like that's a sick throw from Stetson, dude.
That's a great throw. And the route was fantastic too. I mean, he just cut it right up the seam. I mean,
and the pass protection is really not great at all.
No, he's got somebody in his face.
Yeah,
when they're only rushing 4, which is
and Pran misses here.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's wild to see what Todd Monken has done with Stetson.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're being real here, I mean, to run like this offense with a guy that, a lot of people last year kind of felt like, and right, I mean, like there were times last year where we talked about it on the show, right? Like get Georgia into 3rd and long, and you're in trouble because Stetson's not good in 3rd and long. And now, like, I mean, I'm not sure what the updated numbers are after last week, but like going into the Tennessee game, Georgia was first in the country on passing down success rate, which is basically like 2nd and 3rd and long. Like they, it's interesting to see like how he's been able to build an offense around this.
It's crazy. And, if I had had the privilege of sitting in a presser preseason, I would have actually brought up that I would have asked him what area on the offense would you wanted to improve on. I'm sure the answer would have been 3rd down because it was not great at all. And they're just, I mean, it's just, obviously you got a quarterback that's been there 10 years, he should be getting pretty good. Should be improving. No, but it's really, kidding aside, it's like, how does you have to feel, I mean, this is the offense. We talked about it, off air. We were talking about this sort of the first time we did this kind of show, and Monken was his first year OC, and we just talked about what we expected to see. And it did take a couple of years, but this is exactly what the offense you and me and Nathan dreamed up, I think, or you and Nathan dreamed up, not me. I'm just a schmuck with an Excel spreadsheet.
Well, yeah, and we don't even have
video.
Yeah. Well, and Georgia hasn't.
Thanks, Craig.
I mean, a big Google Drive. No,
but Georgia doesn't even have. You're still trying to get AD Mitchell back healthy, right? I mean, you're doing this with.
You're doing this with
personnel. With personnel that you didn't. You knew that these. No disrespect. No, you knew these guys were good, but you're not doing this with your premier receivers out there making these plays.
Georgia hasn't had a number 1 receiver for the majority of the last 2 seasons. I mean, really,
correct.
I mean, AD Mitchell as a freshman kind of became that for us last year, but we were missing George Pickens the entire year. He played a little at the end, kind of coming back off that ACL. And then this year we had AD for the first game. And that's basically it. He went out the first drive of Sanford. So it really is nuts that we're doing this with Stetson Bennett. This is not the most talented batch of running backs that we've ever had at Georgia. Good. I mean, they're solid players, but there's no Todd Gurley's or Nick Chubb's in this group. And they're just consistently getting it done. Although that to me was somebody. I was talking to somebody
consistently getting it done as the defensive
that was
line.
bad. That was bad. That was one of those heads. To me, that's a head scratcher. Somebody tried to blame that on the offensive lineman for not getting the guy's hands down.
What?
Yeah. I thought it was a weird.
We had just an update. We had Graham on a snap count, and we've reached it. So we're gonna put him.
He's on the
Graham has been under the weather for a little while now. So get well, Graham.
Get well, bud.
Yeah.
No,
he got the cover and he's out.
That defensive line play, it reminded me of that. Not the same, obviously, but similar to that David Pollock South Carolina interception. It's like the guy just got his hand up and just made like a crazy play that you probably wouldn't make. You'd make that one out of.
It's one of those deals, and Stetson you could tell he just felt like an idiot I'm not calling him an idiot, but it's just one of those things where you're just like, I can't believe I just threw it.
Exactly.
And it was a little lucky. 9 times out of 10, probably 99 times out of 100, that's going to hit the ground.
Correct.
But it kind of sandwiched between him and I think it was Van Pran Granger.
Yep, just right in his arm.
Is it Van Pran or Van Prawn? I feel like I always say that wrong. Do we know?
It's Van Pran.
Van Pran Granger. Okay.
SVP
is that's what I call him on Twitter.
Yeah, I did think Stetson got a little gunslinger-ish. You got Darnell right there, and you're trying to fit it into a window where you got 3 guys. I mean, he did that a couple times in the second half once Georgia got a big lead. But right here, it's like throw the ball to Darnell. You get a first down.
I know. This tweet got a lot of action. I was just like, take what they give you, dude. And he's like, what? Yeah. Where's this? There's 3 jerseys, 3 maroon jerseys that can make that play.
And it's not, at the end of the day, if you're going to throw it, you got to throw it further out to the sideline. It's, it's just forcing it.
And you kind of take that
huge run right there. It's still a 12-point game. It was a huge run there. It's all right. And then
what were you going to say,
Craig?
Did
we fumble the snap again? Well, I was going to say you kind of have to take that sometimes with Stetson because we saw the throw to Kyrus Jackson on the last drive. I don't know if that's the last drive, but it's like it's a similar kind of window that he's throwing it in. Yeah. And so you kind of and I do feel like, and I want to give him credit because I have been critical of him at times. Like he does that a lot less. And that one wasn't as detrimental. And obviously the interception that he threw to the lineman was bad. But then we see him coming back right here and he hits the underneath that time immediately. And it's wide open.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say this. I mean, I think the decision making. So Stetson last year, right, got criticized a lot. Even Kirby would allude to this when talking about Stetson around his decision making. Right, Kirby said multiple times he's got to make better decisions, but I like the aggressiveness. I think this year, what's changed is he's making better decisions, but he's still being aggressive. And so when you put those two together, it's like, all right, you can live with that. You can live with a good decision that's aggressive and it may not turn out exactly right, but the bad aggressive decision is like is the tough part. Graham was talking about this earlier in the show, but man, the goal line, the calls on the goal line, that call right there, we had Dejan Edwards trying to stretch it out to the numbers.
That was that zone scheme getting blown up. Again, they got to the outside shoulder pad and blew right through it. And they did a great job. Graham wrote about this shooting gaps and they would read it and just shoot to the outside. And maybe our guys are so big. Yeah. Maybe that's a disadvantage, but I think they're athletic. Like I know, especially Broderick Jones, like that dude can move, but I don't know if that, and Darnell finally.
Yeah. This was a great play.
I've been wanting to score. I wish he scored a lot more, but I'm glad he finally got one.
Craig, we talked about this as 13, 14, whatever it is. This is what we all dreamed of when we got dealt. Because I was at this point, I'm not going to lie, a little tipsy, a little relaxed. Did not see number 4 come in the game there. And
13 personnel.
13 personnel. And Dale comes over here. And look, and I think it was Georgia on tap. No, it was Craig, Chris Caruth or whatever. He says, he faked everybody out. But he faked Bennett out. Bennett is locked on Bowers, and then he's like, "Oh, okay,
guys." There's an update. So Drew Sheehan, number 85, is on the other end of that line. This is actually 14 personnel.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
We got four tight ends on this play.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you love it because Brock Bowers, you get Brock Bowers up at fullback, and then you're in a situation where if they're shooting the gaps, I mean, that's why Darnell gets so wide open.
Is he an eligible receiver right there?
Sheehan is that's a good question. I don't think Sheehan.
I think you've got a tearaway jersey on. You're not actually eligible just because.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that question, but yeah,
he's on the end of the line, so he's not covered up.
Yeah,
so
if he's not covered up, he should be eligible. Yeah. But you got Bowers, Sheehan, Darnell Washington, and Oscar Delp all in the game.
14. Make a new hat.
I got to get rid of the ones I got.
That's awesome. Cool.
Game over. Yeah. Do we want to watch any more of this?
No, I think we're good. I think the only other shout out I'll give is I loved seeing Kendall Milton get that run at the end of the game. I mean, guys had ups and downs, roller coaster, but that was a great run where he cut it up. And
that's going to be good for depth potentially. I mean, we only have 3 scholarship running backs healthy without him.
Yeah,
and he is a guy that, he can take punishment and pick up tough yardage. And this was a night blocked well. He didn't really get touched, but he hit the hole.
Yeah, it was a nice run. That cutting it back up. This vision right here is what he's missed sometimes, where you come and you got that little crease right here. And there have been times.
Reminds me of Zamir White a little bit, where he's kind of looking like, oh shoot, there's no. Yes, I'm going to score.
Yeah, you got that bend, right? I mean, this bend is what he's been missing sometimes, where he'll run it a little bit wide and end up having 4 or 5 yard gain versus what it ends up being.
And McConkey's making a play out there that if he did, it may not have sprung all
a little
the way.
bit, but I grab a little jersey. That's all right.
You're not Rubbin's racing.
Yeah, Mike Leach probably has some thoughts on it, but
alligator arms, man.
All right, guys, let's talk. Any initial thoughts on Kentucky?
Well, they're coming off a terrible loss, and I don't know what to make about that. But that is a loss from a team who was preseason top 10, I believe.
Yeah,
and they lost to Vanderbilt. They were expected to do a lot better than what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
They beat Florida early, which was a big win, and it seems like the wheels have kind of come off. I don't. Will Levis had high expectations, and I don't know what to make of it.
Yeah, they've dropped 4 of their last 6. Vanderbilt had a 26-game SEC losing streak that they just broke against Kentucky at Kentucky. And
it didn't look fluky either to me. I mean, it wasn't like there was just pick sixes and crazy stuff happen. I mean, it looked like for the most part, Vanderbilt lined up and played SEC football and won.
Yeah. If you had the prop bet COVID-19 or Vandy winning, because that was the last win was pre-COVID, so there was no
pre-COVID.
And they did it with their backup quarterback. Wright started at the beginning of the year, and then Swan got hurt, and Wright's more of a running guy. Yeah. And he did run for 126 yards and a touchdown, but he also passed for 184 and a touchdown. And that to me, I almost took Kentucky, and last minute I decided not to. I was like, at home against Vanderbilt, they should cover. Yeah. But yeah, I'm glad I did not take that one. Will Levis had 100 yards passing. He was less than 50%. QBR of 15.5.
So if you lost your prize picks funds there, you can reload with code Dog Central if you had Will Levis over 240 yards. Man. If you had under, you may not need the code Dog Central on prize picks.
Yeah, my only concern, Kirby Smart mentioned this, right? I mean, Kentucky historically has been one of the most physical games that Georgia plays every year. It's going to be cold. Their defense is it's not great, but it's also only allowing, I think, 22 points a game. Their offense is 92nd versus FBS teams, which is only scoring 22. I think they're allowing 22.2 and they're scoring 22.4. So it's basically averaging a tie every game.
The pundits, talking heads, Will Levis, first round quarterback kind of thing, are taking some hits right now, but they lost a lot of not only of their offensive weapons, but a lot of their offensive line. It's easy to see how that combination of, you've got a good quarterback, you've got Chris Rodriguez, who didn't play in the first 4 games. I mean, it's just like you could see that it was possibly going to go sideways for Kentucky, and it definitely has. I watched that Kentucky game. I'm sorry, I watched that Vandy game. There was no juice in the stadium whatsoever. It was cold, wet, dark, and noon kick. And I'm wondering if it could be a Georgia takeover again on Saturday at 3:30.
Well, I know a lot of Georgia fans that are heading up to Lexington to take in a game at the world's largest outdoor Kroger.
Never heard that. Did you just come up with that?
It's the WLOK, guys. World's largest outdoor Kroger.
That's a home and home for that. Yeah, sorry.
Exactly.
I haven't set foot in a Kroger all week, by the way. Only Publix until Saturday.
Publix until Saturday night. Oh, it's Publix only.
But then after that, I got to get my Kroger Plus points back. Sorry.
Yeah. Craig, we're gonna have some write-ups. We'll have some more analysis on the Kentucky game. Do you have an early lean on a score? You're just throwing something out there.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia, what I'm looking at, the line is negative 22.5.
Yes.
And I don't know what the over-under is, but I could see Georgia. I mean, at this point, it just depends on if Kentucky's going to give up or not. What are you going to do after that Vanderbilt game? I know Kentucky has good players. I have a lot of respect for Mark Stoops, but it would not surprise me if Georgia – now, if they get into the 30s and 40s and Kentucky's getting shut out, we know Kirby will shut it down.
Yeah.
But I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going to say 31-3.
31-3. Right. Josh, you got any early leans?
Definitely laying the points with Georgia. I predicted a shutout. I love this defense. It's coming together every game. They seem to play better and better, despite giving up a couple of those, a couple drives on Mississippi State. I still believe in it. They don't pass the ball downfield a lot. I just don't see any explosive plays. I mean, if they do, it's going to be, Chris Rodriguez coming through. I like Craig's 31-3, but I'm going to still say that Georgia's offense gets rolling a little bit, shows off on CBS, and hangs a 40 spot on. I'm going to say 42-10.
42-10. All right. The total is 49. The over under. And so, yeah, I'm leaning, I think it's going to be interesting. My question is, does Kirby shut it down? So my question is, does Georgia jump out to a lead and then Kirby decides to go on, the Kirby death marches and sit on the ball a little bit and get out of there healthy. But I do think Georgia's probably going to show out a little bit. I'm going to split the middle with y'all, and I think I'm going to go a 38-10 kind of game is what I'm leaning on. I think Georgia could easily shut out Kentucky. I think Kentucky could also have some fight. It's a Mark Stoops team. It's at home. You just lost to Vandy, but I just don't think. Kentucky doesn't have the firepower to hang. So whatever that number is, it's going to be large. Yeah.
Rodriguez went for 162 yards and 2 touchdowns in the loss to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that Kentucky is built for him to do that against Georgia.
Correct.
And if Will Levis doesn't become first-round draft pick Will Levis that people still don't want to admit that they were wrong on, then I think they're going to have a really tough time moving the ball up and down the field.
Yeah. Levis has not had – there's not a game you can point to this year and say this is the Will Levis that everyone was expecting. It's not like he's been a situation where it's like, oh, there he is. It's like he hasn't been that guy at any point this season. Even against Florida, when they won that Florida game early, he didn't play great. And so, yeah, I agree. I think it's going to get pretty ugly. All right.
Yeah, I was checking. Actually, I was checking if it was senior day, just to see if there would be some sort of juice. It's not. They've got Louisville home the next week. You're looking at this schedule as a Kentucky fan and all the hype leading up to it, and you had down the stretch a Tennessee team that you thought you could match up with: Missouri, Vanderbilt, Georgia, and Louisville. You think you got a chance to make some hay, and they're getting destroyed by Tennessee. They lost to Vanderbilt and barely got a win against Missouri. So yeah,
that's okay. Missouri's good.
Yeah, it may not have a lot of fight in it. Sorry, that was
a 4-point win against Missouri is good. So
Missouri is a good team, guys. Underrated playing in Columbia.
Yeah,
it's one of the toughest places to play. Just ask the Georgia football team.
One of the best 4-win teams in the country.
Yeah, awesome. Well, this has been great, guys. Been exciting. Any parting thoughts that we have going into Kentucky or anything else? We didn't talk about the CFP. We teased that we were going to talk about that.
We've been talking about it plenty on Twitter.
If Georgia wins, I think they're a lock to get in. I got into it on Twitter with people today who didn't understand what a lock was, but a lock means definitely getting in.
Yeah.
And so I think they're a lock to get in. And if you're watching this, that's what a lock is. It's a difference between probably and a lock.
I think Tennessee fans think they're a lock. I think they're very confused on what a lock.
All right. Real quick. I know Craig's battery's dying. We're trying to wrap it up. We're right at an hour. You've got $100 to pick the number 4 seed. Who is it?
Man, if it's my money, I might pick Tennessee. I don't want them to get in, not because I fear them, but because I just don't think they've struggled enough.
It's 5 more weeks of Vol Twitter.
And if they get in, that's going to be, even if they get blown out, they're just all going to talk about all offseason, and I would too if I were them. I don't blame them. But I might put my money on them just because, but I don't know. I mean, is TCU going to win out? Is USC going to win out? Are they going to put an ACC one-loss champion ahead? Yeah. That's a good question.
Well, if TCU wins out, they're not going to be I think TCU is either the 3 or they're out.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead. Listen, I'm going to go ahead and say it, and y'all, somebody's gonna screen capture this and post it on
John
Twitter.
Tweet Sports.
Absolutely, but I think I think USC is gonna win out, and I think they're gonna get in. I think they're gonna get the 4th spot. I do, man. I do, and I think the LA market. I think the brand from that committee. I think that's what's gonna happen.
Is the UCLA game going to be sold out?
Probably not.
No, I think it will be by USC fans.
But yeah, maybe.
No, it's a home game. It's like national.
Yeah, if I had $100, I would probably put it on Tennessee. I think that's probably, that's probably a safer bet if you're betting. But my gut tells me from watching how this thing is going down and watching those Pac-12 defenses and watching Caleb Williams yelling at his team on the sideline last week, when they were playing Colorado. I think that team has a terrible defense, but I think they're going to outscore everybody they play, and I think that committee is going to put them in.
I think they can get into the Pac-12 championship game, but I think they're going to face a team with I guess it's going to be Oregon. Yeah, and I think Oregon can. Dan Lanning is a defensive coach. He's going to fix some stuff, and I just don't think they can get through Oregon.
I hope he fixes it soon. Oregon has the 107th passing defense in America. So
and Notre Dame is their last game after UCLA, and they've kind of rebounded and proved to not be such slouch. I mean, that's the only loss for North Carolina and Clemson.
Well, because I've said it, it means USC is going to lose this weekend and be out.
You jinxed it, man. That's why I said Tennessee, because now, God.
Put your money on Tennessee.
I don't fear them. I don't think they'll beat Georgia. I just don't want them to get in because, God, they won't shut up about it. And I wouldn't either.
No.
I tricked you. Since you asked, it's Ohio State. Michigan's going to win.
Oh, gosh.
And it's,
you know that. Hey,
Ohio State, Georgia, first round at Mercedes-Benz. I just made that up, actually. But I do think Michigan is gonna. I just think that the red zone defense, the red zone offense for Ohio State is problematic. I think that Michigan's got a good enough defense. I was down on them. I kind of like snickered when Graham picked them to win the Big Ten preseason, and here they are. I think they're actually the more complete team. And I think Ohio State. I mean, it'd be all right. So, all right, and one more. Sorry, I'm having fun. I haven't talked to you guys in a minute. All right, Ohio State or Tennessee? Who would you put in if TCU wins out?
If Tennessee wins out and Ohio State has one loss to Michigan, so they're both one-loss teams. I mean, that's easy. Ohio State.
All right.
Tennessee's going to have the better resume, but if you're talking about like
please, Tennessee's resume is they gave up 900 yards to Alabama, and Alabama missed a field goal to win the game and should have won that game. So it had 17 penalties, and Tennessee still had to kick a field goal to win the game after Alabama missed it. LSU at 11 a.m. at home, brunch on the Bayou. Then they're trying to
Brian Kelly early in his first year, and I think they caught Alabama kind of on a down year, but I'm just saying that the committee doesn't know that. They don't watch these games.
Craig, you're exactly right. I was just trying to razz Tennessee.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I'm razzing Tennessee. No, you're right. Tennessee has the better resume.
All right, before we go, for real. CFP committee members, free membership, dogcentral.com. So just hit up.
You don't have to watch the games. We'll write it up.
You don't have to watch the games. We'll
DM me, committee members, Boo Corrigan and company, Boo and the boys, and I guess gals maybe too. Get in my DMs. We'll give you a free membership, dogcentral.com. We'll tell you who you should put in. We'll do the analysis for you. You don't have to watch the games. You don't watch them anyway. You have some staffer like doing some analysis for you now. We know. Just let us do it for you. We'll help you out.
Yeah, Georgia, absolutely. All right,
TCU, Clemson, North Carolina.
Perfect. Can Kansas State make it back into the playoff? Because I would love for Georgia to play Kansas State in the first round.
They got some good losses.
Yeah,
some good losses, and they've
Georgia needs Kansas State and Utah in the playoffs. That's who we need. Play Kansas State in the first round, Utah in the Natty. Let's make that happen.
Utah's good, man. They almost beat Florida on
the. All right, boys. See y'all.
Hey, Kyrus Jackson at 69 yards. Nice. Love you guys.